It is my pleasure to introduce the forthcoming performance of Mahler's Seventh Symphony with the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. And I want to invite all of you to join us at the Henry Crown Hall on February 15th. The Mahler Seventh Symphony is particularly interesting because it is a work that was composed between 1904 and 1908 during a tumultuous time in Mahler's life. Everything seemed to have happened during this period. He lost a daughter before the symphony was completed. His marriage entered a very difficult period where he uncovered, among other things, the infidelity of his wife. And in 1907, he made the decision to quit his post as the director and chief conductor of the Imperial Opera in Vienna and accepted a job as conductor of the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and ultimately which led to his becoming music director of the New York Philharmonic. So it was a dramatic moment in Mahler's life, filled with tragedy and disruption. The piece itself is also unusual because Mahler becomes very experimental in many respects in the uses of harmony and also in orchestration. This is a symphony that has a mandolin in it, a guitar, other percussion instruments which give the orchestra a color and a range, thrilling and dramatic, from the very delicate to the very grand and spectacular. The symphony is also structured in an unusual way. It has a big first movement, it has a scherzo movement, and has a big final movement. But in between the first movement and the scherzo, and between the scherzo and the last movement, are two movements which have the title Night Music, which is why some people have given this symphony the title The Song of the Night. And it's controversial also because the last movement is a very densely composed movement with a lot of multiple lines, polyphony, and it quotes, among other things, Die Meistersinger by Wagner. It is like the entire world, as Mahler liked to say, put into a symphonic form. The sort of experimental character of the sound, it is in a way the most progressive, the most modern of the Mahler symphonies. And it is also very much recognizable as a Mahler symphony in the romantic and dramatic sense. It's a different kind of Mahler, a more forward-looking Mahler, which is why the concert has been called Mahler the Progressive. It's a time also where Mahler discovered that he himself suffered from a heart condition, and therefore it approaches the issue of death and the metaphysical. Mahler believed somehow in a Spinoza-like sense that nature and God, and that the metaphysical world, the one we can't see, is related to the physical world. He was a believer in the ultimate spiritual and experiential unity of life. Although the symphonic work has many fragments, but those fragments are integrated into a whole structure. In this case, it is three pillars, the first movement, the scherzo, and the last movement, and in between those two strange fantasy movements called night music. Mahler believed that music was more able than any other human form of communication to give a listener a sense of the complexity, diversity, and yet unity of the world in which we live. We live in a world that's filled with sharp, abrupt changes, which you can find in a Mahler symphony, with very stark contrasts, harmonic between major and minor, between keys that don't often relate to one another in the usual sense. Extremely new sounding to an audience that went to a concert simply to sit back and have a good time. Mahler is well known for using things from the everyday world into the symphony. Waltzes, polkas, dances, and that makes it even more a kind of distilled experience of life. We walk down a street or in a field and we hear sounds of nature, or we hear someone singing. He took that experience that we have every day of hearing a fragment of something that is familiar, and he integrated that fragment into the symphonic form. So this is a way of breaking the boundaries between art music and everyday experience of noise, sound, and popular music. Mahler was accused, therefore, of making a high art form, the art form we associate with Haydn and Beethoven and Mozart, of making it banal, making it vulgar. And nothing could be further from the truth. But what he's trying to do is connect art with ethics, art with the conduct of life. Sort of an artificially constructed notion of form and beauty in sound isn't the way life conducts itself. Giving expression to the emotions and sensibilities that life brings to the composer. And in Mahler's case, the death of his daughter, the collapse of an idealized love relationship with his wife Alma. Now what's interesting is that drama, that psychological drama, although it's confessional, it's personal, it's one's own struggling with memory, the listener, however, can recognize that it sounds like a person reflecting on their life or on life. And it's done in a way that each listener can appropriate what Mahler does for their own self-reflection. So Mahler provides a template through sound by which we can go from day to night in this symphony, because of the night music episodes, in a way that corresponds to our own life, to understand ourselves better through the process of listening.